These plans were made by the Palestine Action Group, and they had anticipated about 40,000 people would take part on Sunday. The plan was to begin in Hyde Park with some speeches and then march down to the Sydney Opera House forecourt. But the police opposition to those plans seemed to be mainly concerned about safety concerns, especially in the area of the Opera House forecourt. Now, today the Court of Appeal has ruled that a prohibition order over this event should be made. Justice Stephen Free, who was one of 3 judges who overheard this case, has read out a summary of his decision, and he said that the court has considered things like the potential size of the crowd, the route of the march and the physical constraints at that end destination, and unanimously come to the view that the public safety risk is extreme in those plans. He's also said that the mitigating factors proposed by the protesters in terms of reducing the safety risk were not enough to bring it down to a significant or acceptable level. And he said the court has held that the risk to public safety and the participants of this march was so significant that it would be irresponsible to let it go ahead. Now, Ros, outside the circumstances of this specific rally in this case, there is something legally significant in this judgment. It appears to have clarified the potential consequences for breaching a prohibition order. Previously, it was understood that a prohibition order over an event would simply deprive attendees of certain legal protections against being charged with things like obstructing roads. But in this judgment, the Court of Appeal has clarified that anyone who knows about a prohibition order and still attends an authorised or unauthorised event may be held in contempt of court. The judges have said that the language in the legislation here is decisive and that a prohibition order operates to do precisely what it suggests: prohibit a proposed public assembly. We've heard some reactions from this decision today too, Ros. The Premier Chris Minns has welcomed it and said it validates the police's decision to take this matter to court. And we've also heard from senior officers who have been speaking today and explained their decision to initiate these proceedings in the first place.
Experts with the police plan these things so we don't get crowd crushes. And that's what it's all about for us. It's public safety. It's why we need time to plan and work with people before we adhere to their Form 1s, before we agree to facilitate public assemblies. The cul-de-sac, the peninsula that it was on, the ingress and egress routes, they gave me great concern of a crowd crush. And for those reasons, that's why we took it to the Court of Appeal.
So, Jamie, the protesters have announced different plans for Sunday. What are they intending to do now?
Yeah, so immediately after this decision, Ros, one of the organisers, Damien Ridgewell from the Palestine Action Group, told the media that they've negotiated an alternative route with police. Instead of going to the Opera House forecourt, they'll now march down George Street. And he's explained today that even though this case didn't go their way, he still intends to hold that event and make their point that way. But let's listen to Mr. Ridgewell explaining what the significance is of this decision in terms of their plans going forward.
Obviously, the court proceedings did not go our way today, and we won't be marching to the Opera House. But we know that courts often get things wrong. That's why we have appeals. And it also highlights the urgent need in this state for urgent legal reform around the rights to protest. Our right to protest is paramount in a democratic society, and the campaign in solidarity with Palestine has been absolutely an example about why we need to enshrine the right to protest in our legal system, so that people who are trying to use our democratic rights to stop genocides are not constantly face attempts to block them by the police and political institutions.
Now, Mr. Ridgewell has also said that they've reserved their decision in terms of whether or not they will challenge this decision. And interestingly, one of the lawyers who worked on this case, Ros, Nick Hanna, has told the media that he expects there will be many different groups who will be very interested in considering this judgment and also considering whether it should be challenged in the High Court.